Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9-to-5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast, the #1 podcast for the strategies, tactics, and actions high wage earners need for living an intentionally designed life of wealth and resilience.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in building that wealthy and resilient life that you're looking to lead. I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I'm really looking forward to sharing today's episode with you, sharing some more thoughts that's going to help you to continue to move forward and do that much faster. I also want to say, as I do every single time, thank you so much, especially for those of you who have left an honest written review as well as your ratings. We really appreciate that. And also for those of you who are consistently tagging us across LinkedIn, across Instagram, it means the world to us. So thank you so much for that. You continue to help the podcast stay in the top 1.5% of podcasts around the globe. And there's literally more than 3.4 million podcasts or 3.3 million podcasts globally. So thank you so much for continuing to be here, for your commitment. And that's why I continue to be here and committed to you. Also, for those of you who want to listen to any of the previous episodes, well over 400 at this point in time, just go to billykeels.com/podcast and you can find any of the previous episodes. You can find the transcripts, the video, the audio, all that good stuff. billykeels.com/podcast. So I want to share something with you today. Maybe, I guess be a little vulnerable with you, but and for anyone who has ever really put yourself out there by publicly stating your goals, the commitments that you're making, and you've not been able to get there, I've got a little something to share with you in today's, in today's conversation, or today's, I guess, solo episode, I guess is what it is. Because, back in 2013, I kind of put myself out there. Keep in mind at this point in time, I'm still the kid who comes from a lower middle class family. I was, continuing to rise up the corporate career. 18 years, I, worked in the US. I traveled around the world, more than probably 70 countries at that point in time. I was a very young father. Kids were probably 3 and 5, something like that. I had my 2 college degrees, and I was moving up the corporate ladder here in Europe. And at the same time, I kind of had this little side hustle. I'd been watching a lot of videos and watching and listening to podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And there was this idea of getting into investing in real estate. And when I started taking action, it was really early on. I was like, wow, this seems not that difficult. And I was, making a lot of money in what I considered to be a lot of money at the time in the real estate venture. That was, of course, I was in Barcelona and the properties were back on the East Coast of the United States. And so I had all these different things going on. But at the time, it was like, I was ready to, I felt like this real estate investing was going to be the thing that was going to give me the options to not have to work or to continue to keep working. And so I did something that was really radical and went against everything that I kind of done until that point in time. And I publicly declared that I wanted to be able to leave corporate, as I was saying it at the time, basically early retire and focus on my business. And I wanted to do that in 5 years. Right. And so as I talked about that 5 years, I'd never done anything like that before. So there was a lot of nervousness that I had. I was like, oh my gosh, but I'd watch these videos and they're like, keep it to yourself. And other videos were like, publicly declaim it. That way you're going to be accountable. And so I opted to publicly declare that I wanted to be able to retire in 5 years. Now, keep in mind, of course, I'm sharing this with really close friends. I'm sharing this with family members, with in-laws. I'm sharing this with, a very close group of friends and family at the time. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to put myself out there. So I put myself out there, and I started talking about the things that I was doing with the real estate business, the side hustle, and still, working well in my day job. But inside of me, when I said that, I was thinking to myself, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work? What are my kids going to think? Because I'd always told them, you say what you're going to do and then do what you say. And I'd publicly declare that I was going to do this. Were my kids going to think I was a failure? Because I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. I had no clue if I'd be able to retire early in 5 years. And then I also thought, would that be what my kids are thinking? Is that what those that I cared the most about were thinking? There were a lot of things that were going on. My wife at the time was not working. I thought to myself, okay, well, what would that mean? And how would that impact us? How would that impact our family? I thought, parents that were overseas, that were far away, like, hey, Billy's always used to being able to accomplish these things. And what happens if he doesn't? All these different like negative self-talk that was going on, all of that stuff was happening to me. But at the same time, I knew that like if I was going to do this, I didn't have enough experience. So I was like, I've got to do something to get more experience. I had a couple of purchases, but not anything big. So I then, as I would, I started realizing that the only way that I'm going to be able to actually keep my word is actually get out there and do the work. And so I started, spending more time analyzing deals, contacting agents, looking to build the A team. And quite honestly, it was exhausting because I found myself in the point where like this side hustle thing, like it was taking more mental energy and physical strain on me, like doing that side hustle, quote unquote, than my day job, like the one that was really paying me and keeping the lifestyle that I was living. Like that, like I was like, all of a sudden I was just exhausted, but I was operating, I was executing my plan that this is what I had to do, but I was physically exhausted. So I thought to myself, I got to go out. I need some help. So I got a coach that had already been down the path that I was looking to go down, someone who could give me some perspective on things that, well, if I wanted to go in that direction, like build a large portfolio of real estate. And that's what I thought at the time. I wanted to work with somebody who could give me some insight, that I could talk to me, tailor my questions, give me my answers, and be able to do that in a way that was really high touch. I mean, it was such a large investment. It almost scared me. It was almost six figures, so in 1 year. And it was like, how it just scared me. Right. But getting that coach was something that I knew I needed because I didn't want to be exhausted anymore. I didn't want to continue to feel like I was doing this on my own and continue to learn at the very beginning, but I had to execute my plan. I knew that getting more assets into the portfolio was going to be the thing that helped me to retire early in 5 years. Cause that's what I told my kids. Like I had to live up to it. Right. But once I started going out and I started building the portfolio and then incorporating other types of assets that weren't just real estate, different types of things, and recognizing that I was an accredited investor, and maybe we've talked about that, or you can listen to some of the previous episodes. I started investing with other people. I started bringing in other assets that were not in my portfolio before, things like mobile home parks or ATM machines. I got into the energy space for a little while, and all of these different assets were helping me to get to the goal. Well, remember, the goal was 2018 is where I wanted to be able to, quote unquote, retire early. Here's the thing. I got to the goal, and I got to the goal in 2017, right? But that wasn't the thing. The fact of the matter is I was able to do that, but I didn't actually retire early. Like I stayed. Because what I started realizing was the skill set that I'd learned and the skill set that I'd built, it was something that could never be taken back from me. Right. I learned how to build a business. I learned how to overcome challenges. I learned how to work with someone, leveraging a lot of the skills that I'd learned during my corporate career. And at the same time, it was a point where even though I would have gotten to the goal, I didn't actually accomplish the goal because I stayed around for like another 4 years. But the reason I stayed around for another 4 years is because I realized I didn't love my job. I liked my job. The job that I was in provided me and my family the lifestyle with little extra additional effort. And it made sense for me to stay around. Now, it was something that had absolutely nothing to do with money, more a personal life issue. And I've talked about this before. When my father got ill, I recognized that it wasn't just about continuing to make more money. And that's the thing that I realized. That's the thing at the end is I had this skill set. I built the skill set. And now it was about me being able to have more control over my time. And so when I got to the point where it was ready for me to make a change, to make a move, make a difference, and control more of my time, leverage the assets that were in my portfolio, that was the thing that helped me realize it. So I guess at the end of the day, it's not really about you publicly stating you're going to retire by date X. It's about what happens along the journey. What skill sets are you building? And most importantly, when is it truly the right time for you? Just because you've publicly stated that you're going to do something by X doesn't mean that you have to do it by X, but it gives you something to focus on. It gives you a date. It gives you a milestone. And whether you accomplish that earlier or later, And depending what the context of your life is at that point in time, you'll make the right decision. Yourself, with you and your partner, your spouse, your loved one, the people that are important to you in your life. So set the goal. I'm all about setting goals and being clear. That's what I did. And I got to the goal before, but I didn't actually achieve it because I stuck around for another 4 years. And that's okay. And it can be okay for you too. Right? So I just wanted to share that because I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, or you may put a lot of pressure on yourself, and I did it on myself as well. And I was worried about people, the naysayers, and you accomplish this or you didn't. And I actually kept it a secret. I didn't even tell the people that were like the naysayers, like, why are you sticking around longer in your job and all that kind of stuff? Because it didn't really matter, because it was about what I wanted to be able to do and accomplish and be able to do that. But more importantly, the lessons that were learned afterwards. So hopefully this has been helpful. To recognize that, hey, look, even if you get to your goals or you don't, there's still lessons that you can learn and lessons that you can take away from. And it's the skill set that you're building and being able to make that 9 to 5 optional when it's the right time for you, or whatever the case may be. If you're somebody who was like me, kind of towards the middle, and you're needing some help, or you want some guidance along the way, because maybe you're struggling today in your side hustle, or maybe you're wanting to get started with the side hustle. Well, that's exactly the person that we're helping. High paid corporate executives who are maybe struggling a little bit or need some more clarity. If you want to know more about that, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Find out more about our advisory services and be able to, go through a little application process. Once again, it's billykeels.com/advising. And while you're taking today's conversation, thinking about the concepts, applying them to your own life, if you want to reach out, do that as well. I'll be here preparing for the next episode. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Freedom! Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9 to 5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.